Our team previews for the 2022 season continue. We are on to the dark horse. That's not really a dark horse anymore. It is the Kansas State Wildcats. We've got Austin Edwards and Connor Balthazar. They are here. They are the hosts of the Aggieville Alleycats podcast. You guys recently celebrated your year anniversary, so congratulations. You guys know all things Kansas State, and I'm glad there's two of you all. Thank you all for giving some time, because this team is really exciting. I actually think it's the most exciting team in the Big 12, which is crazy to say, but this is the team that I'm most excited about. And Austin, I'll start off asking you, I mean, the cat's out of the bag. They had 6 players on first team all Big 12 offense and defense combined. That is the most out of any school. So you really can't be a dark horse anymore at this point. The cat's out of the bag. We know the talent is there.
Yeah, for as much as the cat's out of the bag, and the pun is intended,
Oh yeah.
the as much as it's out there, you still look and see a bunch of Big 12 projections, and K-State's still projected to finish like 6th, which it baffles me, because it's not like those all Big 12 selections are at, nothing positions.
Right.
One's Felix Anudike-Uzomah, edge rusher. Left tackle, Cooper Beebe. Running back, Deuce Vaughn. And then a bunch of other honorable mentions, and they're at very important positions. So, you mentioned that it's a dark horse without being a dark horse, which is absolutely true. If you ever go on like Twitter, you talk to a fan, but for some reason, it seems like a bunch of the media outlets are still just saying, it's K-State. They're going to finish in the middle of the pack, which, it works because we're picked to be there every single year, and we almost never are. So.
Right. Connor, I'll say this. I was actually talking to Jonathan Davis, who is he's the host of Locked On Longhorns. And we're talking about, hey, they say the 3 most important positions are the quarterback, the guy who protects the quarterback, and the guy who has to go after and chase the quarterback. Well, at this point, it's arguable for Cooper Beebe, right? I mean, I think depending on your mileage about there are some good tackles in this league, right? Right. I think obviously people look at Baylor, Oklahoma, Kansas State. Those are kind of the places that you're looking, but they've got 2 of the 3 of those taken care of. I mean, and they've got, in my opinion, the best offensive player in the conference in Deuce Vaughn in the backfield as well. So, and they're good at linebacker. Looks like they got some good. I mean, this is a well-built team. Like this is the best Kansas State team Chris Klieman has had so far in Manhattan.
I think that's the undisputed truth. I think it's telling that on the defensive side, there's a preseason all-conference guy at every level of defense, because you have edge rusher Felix, Daniel Green at linebacker, and then cornerback Julius Brent. You can make an argument that echoes one of the most underrated cornerbacks in the league as well, especially man coverage. But no, yeah, you said it right. Quarterback, guy protecting the quarterback, and then edge rusher. Doesn't get much more important than that. K-State has, at least for now, locked down 2 of those 3 at the top of the conference. And then quarterback is kind of the wild card there, which I'm sure that we'll talk about a little bit more later on. But I know that K-State fans are at least cautiously optimistic right now. But yeah, a lot of talent on this team. It's without a doubt the most talented team that Coach Klieman's had so far. I'm excited to see where he goes with it.
And they're the team outside the top 4, right? Because we have to respect, I think to respect Oklahoma, what they've accomplished. Texas talent's off the charts. This is especially off the charts. It's not a normal Texas team. Like, this is top of the line, top tier talent they've got right now. Obviously, Baylor and Oklahoma State deserve that respect as well, but Kansas State's right there. And like, I think it's a wide open league this year, and nobody's going to be surprised if Kansas State shows up in Arlington, right? I mean, nobody at all should be surprised if Kansas State is playing for a Big 12 championship in December. Austin, do you agree with that statement?
Yeah, like I said, I don't think it'd be a surprise to literally anyone who doesn't vote in the Big 12 media polls.
Right. Connor, you think it's also not a surprise either if they were to do that?
At this point, I don't think it'd be a major surprise, because I think you alluded to this earlier. They've been lauded as this dark horse candidate the whole summer, to the point that they've become so popular as a dark horse that they're not really dark horse anymore. They're just a contender. And you alluded to that. And so it would not be a shock at all to see them in Arlington. But then again, like you said, the Big 12 is wide open. There's probably 5 teams that I would not be surprised to see in Arlington. Right now, my only team I feel confident about but really having a great shot to be there is Baylor. And then Texas, they have to like prove that they aren't going to Texas themselves this year, which, like you said, incredibly talented team, but they're going to have to prove me otherwise. And Oklahoma's I guess the opposite, where they're going to have to prove me wrong and show that they, under new staff, can actually make it there. But a lot of talent in the league.
And I would say this, like, this is a year where schedule really does matter. The reason why I picked Oklahoma and Texas to go, and I Texas has a tougher schedule, but OU schedule is, I mean, they're going to be favorites in 10, 11 of their games this year. And you kind of like that. I will say this Kansas State schedule, it does really, really toughen up there towards the back end, right? There is that stretch where they're at Iowa State, at TCU, Oklahoma State's at home, Texas at home, then you're at Baylor, at West Virginia. Now, do I think that they're better than some of those teams? And depending on where we are in the season, where things are happening, will they be better? Probably. But location was probably going to matter this year, especially in a conference that we think is pretty even. So, Austin, you have to think that this is a difficult schedule. But if they're potentially as good as we think, like maybe accomplishing that 9-3 is not out of the realm of possibility here.
Yeah, I'm thinking that 9-3 is probably, if I were a betting man and had to put it specifically at one record, it would probably be 9-3, just because K-State has a tendency to lose one game that they really shouldn't. That's just what they've done. And most of the time it's West Virginia, and it will probably be West Virginia and Morgantown.
It's on the road too.
And it's in Morgantown. And then, Baylor in Waco, that's the one game this year that I think our chances of winning are probably less than like 1 in 10, because Waco's an insane environment. And I think Baylor, despite my previous takes about Dave Aranda 2 years ago, which I didn't think he was a good coach, and now I look stupid for saying that, but he's truly one of the best coaches in the league. And the roster he's built, even if they lose some production, that's going to be a tough game in Waco.
Yeah, their schedule is going to be interesting. Let's get into the offense here. All right. So going back to the numbers last year, it's actually really impressive how this offense finished up. They were top 30 in efficiency. They were top 40 in explosiveness, which I don't think people realize. Like, this was actually a pretty explosive offense, considering how slow they go, right? I think people think Kansas State's more of a grind it out. This team could hit big plays. That's shout out to Deuce Vaughn, shout out to guys who can leak nulls. Those guys can actually make it happen for you. They were top 40 in explosiveness. They were 58th in finishing drives. That to me is also attributed to some of the quarterback carousel action they had. I mean, think about how good that offense was last year, considering the really lack of quality quarterback play, which once again goes to show you how good Deuce Vaughn is. Let's start with the quarterback. Adrian Martinez, gentlemen. So this is a polarizing quarterback. I'm sure you all know. This is my belief that if they are not to achieve the heights that we think they can this year, it's going to rest on his shoulders. We are not going to be having conversations like, well, Martinez most of the time did his job and was let down by other parts of the team. That could happen. I doubt it. What is the general fan base sentiment right now, Austin? Is it 60-40? Is it 50-50? Where are the fans at with Adrian Martinez?
Whenever he first announced his transfer, I believe it was either April or May, it was somewhere in there. Whenever he first announced his transfer, there was, let's just say, apprehension from the majority of the fan base, and I was one of them. And I think part of where we're at now, I think it's the entire fan base is definitely behind Adrian in that, they definitely want him to succeed, but there's still that level of apprehension. But I'd say it's kind of quieted down. Like 85% of the fan base is behind him. But I'll be the first to admit that whenever Adrian first transferred here, Connor can attest to this, I was very, very skeptical, because Kansas State, traditionally, their offense is based off of limiting turnovers. And that's something that Adrian Martinez was not necessarily
He's the opposite of that.
Yeah. But when I looked back and watched a little bit of Adrian Martinez's film, first, the context that his tackles were not good in pass blocking. There's no way around it. And a lot of the time, it was Adrian trying to play Adrian ball. He was trying to be a hero. And if we can get him to stop pressing in that way, he'll always have fumble troubles, especially when he's running out of the pocket. That's just what happens sometimes. But if we can get him to play more in structure, try to just take a breath and realize he doesn't have to be the lone part of the offense that needs to make every single play, which is what he felt like at Nebraska, he has genuine all-conference potential.
It's there. I just once again, so here's what's interesting, Connor, is that they've talked about at Kansas State, new quarterback, obviously, new coordinator, Collin Klein, that has the experience of playing Kansas State. They've talked about wanting to speed up the offense because I believe, guys, correct me if I'm wrong here, they're like dead last in pace last year.
No, that's true. Yeah,
second to last.
Second to last.
Wyoming.
They I mean, like whatever it was, I remember checking at one point.
Basically last.
Yeah, they were basically last in pace. Is speeding up the offense, Connor, do you think going to benefit him, or is this something maybe slowing this thing down and just running a ton of options is the way to play this year?
I think it's beneficial because I see the more plays that you run, the more chances you're giving Deuce Vaughn to break one off. Because we talked about explosiveness earlier, and almost all of that is due to Deuce Vaughn. I mean, there's a few plays where you maybe have Phillip Brooks get open deep, tight end get open deep, like Knowles. But most of that is going to be Deuce Vaughn. And that I know that there's been some things said that Adrian Martinez is going to have a lot less designed run this year. It's going to be a lot more focused around getting playmakers the ball, whether that be, Adrian maybe making a play or just smart scheming to get guys open or just handing the ball off. So I think that they understand that Adrian has had turnover issues in the past, but they also understand that he has never had a guy like Deuce Vaughn available to him as a safety blanket. And that he's also never had two competent left tackles or competent offensive tackles, I should say. Because, last year, I think most people, at least in K-State circles, have heard the statistic by now. Nebraska's offensive tackles were last and second to last in pass blocking grade on PFF, including their left tackle had a whopping 0.0 pass blocking grade for the season. So they're hoping that maybe the adjustment to Cooper Beebe will warrant maybe more patient, a more thoughtful Adrian Martinez, and then maybe just a different offensive style that isn't necessarily Adrian go make a play, like try your best, buddy, but is more structured around getting individual guys the ball.
So let's talk about Deuce Vaughn. I voted him for Offensive Player of the Year. I think Bijan Robinson is the most talented running back in the conference. I think in terms of performance, I think he should be part of a more balanced offense. I think that could be a killer offense Texas has if they balance it out because they have so many playmakers. There is one guy who should be getting the ball with the majority of the time. It should be Deuce Vaughn. Austin, I mean, this guy is, I know the comp was Darren Sproles, but like you watched him last year in the season that he had with the quarterback play that was just a revolving door. It is remarkable to watch a guy who is that big perform that often with that many touches with that many different quarterbacks.
Yeah, I don't think you can really undersell everything that Deuce did, especially when Skyler, who, when he's healthy, he was a solid quarterback, but he had to deal with the Skyler that occasionally was hobbled. He had to deal with Will Howard, which, yes, we're fans of Will Howard, but he really needs to use his red shirt to actually get a chance.
Yeah.
Which is a shame because that quarterback room, there's a possibility that doesn't happen. But for what Deuce is he truly is, he's not the cog that makes the offense go, but he's the supercharger that makes the offense speed. And just what he's able to do with the ball in his hands, and even as a legit flexed out receiver option, which I'm actually projecting we see a little bit more given the other running backs that we picked up. Just everything that he is capable of doing, I think he is by far the best offensive weapon in the Big 12. Pure running back, probably Bijan Robinson. And I hate to do this, but it's almost exclusively because of size. But and I think he,
I think in
faster.
terms of an athlete, I think he's just like you watch him play against everybody else, and you're just like that's the best player in the field. That's kind of what happens with Bijan.
Yeah, but for the shiftiness that Deuce has, it's just all sorts of it's a problem because you can't
Mm.
put a linebacker on him unless you have Isaiah Simmons stored somewhere, which I guess is possible.
Right.
But you can't put a safety on him because he's too shifty for that even, and he's a bit, he can still hit boom you a little bit.
He's
He
got great pad
finishes every
level. He
run.
runs with an awesome pad level. Yeah.
Yeah. Which, it's so nothing can be I could spend the next 30 years complimenting Deuce Vaughn and it wouldn't be enough for what he means to this team.
Connor, who are these guys? Because so I keep getting some slander for not acknowledging who the new backup running backs are at Kansas State. Like, I'm sorry, people. Look, what do you want me to do? Like, talk, but I heard that they picked up a transfer that wasn't on many teams' radar that some y'all fans think might be pretty good.
Yeah, there's a JUCO guy from, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Ace Modesto,
Yeah, it's
California.
Modesto.
Anthony Frias. He's seen as a definite power back.
Mm.
His film's a little fuzzy because I haven't watched it for a couple of months, but I do remember really liking it. Very, very powerful and good acceleration, not like a burner or anything, but he's a definite hammer to compare, or he's the thunder compared to Deuce Vaughn's lightning, I guess is the way I'll put it. Again, we have not seen him play on the field, so who knows. But another guy to keep an eye on in the long term is, I believe he's a redshirt freshman, DJ Giddens. Basically, anybody that knows anything around the program has been hyping up DJ Giddens as the truth. He's got some things to figure out, it sounds like, but his potential is sky high, it sounds like, at least in terms of athleticism. So he's someone to maybe look for beyond this year. But Frias is probably going to be the spell back this year for Deuce, and we may actually see him a little bit more than that. Like Ace said, we've seen more and more propensity to split Deuce out and have him in the slot here and there, and so we may see more Deuce just lines up in the slot and have Frias there in a tailback. But we'll see. Frias is probably the guy this year to keep an eye on, but there's a few others.
And then, wide receiver wise, I mean, bringing back Malik Knowles and Phil Brooks, pretty nice. I mean, they had a pretty experienced wide receiver room, Austin, don't they?
Yeah, the experience in the wide receiver room, not only with Malik Knowles and Phillip Brooks coming back, but also Cade Warner, who has been around college football. And obviously, I hate to be this guy, but he knows his football just by virtue of who his dad is.
Mm-hmm.
So just how the knowledge that they all three bring in, as Malik Knowles is your true wide receiver one, your X receiver, Cade Warner hopefully being in the slot, but realistically being the Z, and then Phillip Brooks being your true slot option. But outside of that, we have another young guy, J Garcia, who's been making a lot of waves in summer camp and fall camp. So even look for him to be making a legitimate impact, and he could play literally anywhere. But Brooks is probably the most underrated just because he just gets 99 to every attribute on third down. He's probably the best player on the team on third downs and only on third downs. And it's kind of amazing to watch.
And then let's talk defense now. Let's go to this defense because I'm pretty excited about it. I mean, on the defensive line, you've got Felix Anudike-Uzomah, who is, this guy is a pass rusher, right? It's kind of the story here, Connor, is that this is, I struggle between him and Siaki Ika because I think Ika's not going to get as much credit because he plays at the interior spot, and that job is mostly to open up things for, guys around you, linebackers, etc. But this guy, Anudike-Uzomah, is going to be the most destructive force in the league this year, probably.
Oh, no doubt in my mind. He's definitely going to get the tough end of the job because he's going to get double teamed a ton. We saw a lot of that down the stretch last year. But nevertheless, he's going to attract a lot of attention just because of his strength. He's one of the strongest pass rushers in the league. But he also combines that with really high level technical acumen. Granted, he's not the best technical pass rusher on our roster, I'd say, but
really?
Ace and I, we have a guy that we like. Most of the fan base loves this guy. He's not known right now, really, but Nate Matlick, he's going to be special. We think he got a lot of playing time last year as a true freshman. I think had redshirt freshman. I mean, he had 3.5 sacks and should have had more, but had a few situations where he'd tackle a guy behind the line of scrimmage or then roll over and he'd end up beyond it, like at Texas Tech. He recovered a few fumbles. Right now he's kind of raw. He's kind of just like a puppy that's like 6'5", 240. You just throw him out in the field and tell him to run at the quarterback, but do it really well. But he could be really special with his athleticism, his size, and his technical acumen right now. Because at the open practice last year, Ace and I attended, and we were able to pretty quickly identify him as being the best technical pass rusher on the team because he was beating Cooper Beebe in pass rush drills. So,
wow.
He could be special.
And then Austin, the second level, I mean, you got, a couple of seniors and Will Honus, and obviously Dana Green's the guy everybody's looking at, and also junior Khalid Duke, who's back there. I mean, I think in a conference where I'm not really sure how good the linebacking cores are going to be, this could be the best. I think you could say that maybe about one or two other, we really don't know. But this one has got, kind of the guy in there. Everybody's talking about Daniel Green.
Yeah. And in the Big 12, there's only like one or two schools that I can think of that don't play the 3-3-5. So most of the time you're asking yourself, is that a linebacker? Mm-hmm. But with Daniel Green, yeah, he's the true Mike linebacker. It's sounding more and more like Will Honus will be the Will, funnily enough. And then the Sam will be a switch off between either Sean Robinson or Khalid Duke. Sean Robinson, Sean Robinson, old friend who used to play safety, is now playing Sam linebacker.
Wow.
And yeah,
I mean, we just appreciate that. He has gone from quarterback, pretty highly touted. I think he was a 4-star quarterback, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
From TCU to Missouri, switches positions at Missouri to play safety, goes to Kansas State to play safety, and now is switching to Sam linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. What a transition. Way to be open. Way to be open to be, that's called being coachable right there, right? I'll help out in any way possible.
Yeah. But yeah, the linebacking core is, as opposed to last year where it was kind of the biggest question mark, I feel like this year it has the potential to be a really big strength, especially because Will Honus, coming off of a pretty catastrophic injury last year, there was a lot of questions about whether or not he would be the guy. And it's sounding more and more like, as every day progresses, that he has separated himself. I mean, we had a 4-star transfer in, Brandon Jennings. He ended up transferring out because Will Honus was beating him on the depth chart. And now he's at UCF. So
quite a transition for him too.
Yeah.
And then the secondary, Connor, Julius Brent is somebody I'm really excited about because of how big he is. I mean, people don't like this guy looks like he should be playing linebacker. Now, I'm wondering, has he put on any weight at all? Because he's like 6'4", 200? Is that kind of where he's around?
Yeah. And I think that he's about stayed there. He was about at the right size when he got here for what they wanted.
So big for a corner.
He's huge. He has really long arms too. His arms are crazy long. Like it's like hilarious. Like watch him like stand there in coverage, just like with how long.
He's not a corner. Yeah, he just doesn't look like a corner, right?
It's borderline unfair. Like honestly, like looking at him.
And then Echo Boyedo. I mean, this is a guy also too, the other end that they really like. I mean, they've got probably the best pair of corners in the league heading into the year, right? I mean, I think that's, I think I had Echo on I forget if I had him on first team or not. Either I did, or, he was the first guy off the list, or first guy, I left off. And I mean, that's pretty rare where you've got, especially in this conference, I know things have transitioned more to defense, but where you've got two corners who you are pretty excited about on the outside. I mean, I think this year we're going to see more transitioning back to the passing game, right? Blake Shapen is going to be at Baylor. You're going to see Quinn Ewers, obviously, Texas, Dylan Gabriel, and long line of Oklahoma quarterbacks. Spencer Sanders another year, whatever that means. I love Spencer, but come on, man. Like to have a couple guys, JT Daniels, obviously the back end to go on, so on and so forth. It's going to be really helpful to have two corners so you can really trust. Especially, is the safety situation pretty clear, or is that something's going to be a rotation?
It's muddy, but less muddy than it was, I think, is where we're at. We have probably one guy penciled in at least at safety. We think Kobe Savage is probably going to be the guy in the safety room this year. He's a JUCO transfer that flipped from North Texas, and you're generally able to get a good idea on some of those guys who aren't known, just based on how much like they're being brought up unprompted, like during media outings. And Kobe Savage has been a very popular name. in that sense. I think he'll probably be strong safety, which K-State does run the 3 high, which Ace, I know how you feel about that. But Kobe
Not a
Savage is
fan?
the guy to
It's gross. It looks disgusting.
It is, that's fair.
TJ Smith is another guy to keep an eye on. He's kind of the odd man out this year, it seems like, where he's probably going to run, like, he's probably going to be first guy off the bench, like, along with Sincere Mason. Then Josh Hayes, transfer from Virginia, will probably find his way into the room. Ace and I both really like Drake Cheatham. He's a grad transfer from Prairie View A&M, former FCS All-American, and a lot of parallels in story with Reggie Stubblefield. And then we kind of see him as similar to Russ Yeast, who was drafted by the LA Rams this past year. And he's basically that, but rangier at free safety. So we're really looking forward to seeing what the safety room can do. But at the end of the day, you are right, kind of alluding to, it's the biggest question. I apologize for my cat meowing.
It's fine. We love animals here. We're a pro animal podcast. But yeah, I mean, this kind of takes back to the beginning, guys. Like, all right, so what is the one big weakness, Austin? Is it the safety? Is it the secondary? What is the real big weakness in this team?
I'd say the biggest weakness on this team is as much experience as we have in the receiver room. We've just kind of been sitting there waiting for Malik Knowles to turn into what his potential could be. Mm-hmm. And then as heady a player as Cade Warner is, he's not a plus athlete. He's someone who you're not someone you're scheming up touches for. Like, he'll know where the third down line is and he'll fall for it. And he is tenacious after the catch, to say the least, but he's not a burner. Phillip Brooks, as much as I love Phillip Brooks, both as a punt returner and a receiver, especially on third downs, he's still just a solid slot receiver. So whereas with every single other room, you can at least point to one person in each room that is the guy in that room. With the receiver room and the receiving talent, it's a little bit more questionable because you're banking on Malik Knowles living up to his true, like, he could be an absolute monster at his size, and he just hasn't put it together yet.
Connor, what for you is the biggest weakness? Is that lack of depth there, lack of, I guess, finding your potential wide receiver? What is it for you?
I feel like right now, as things stand, it's probably the safety room just because of the number of question marks. But I feel like by the end of the year, it'll probably end up being receivers, like Ace said. But I'll go with a different answer just to not say the same thing over and over again. But safety room, there are guys that have potential there. But at the end of the day, that's what it is. It's potential. We need to see, probably, at least based on how much we sub on defense, especially in the secondary, probably 4 guys step up. Sincere Mason is coming off of a big knee injury late in the season. Then Drake Cheatham, Josh Hayes, and Kobe Savage haven't taken a snap in a K-State uniform. TJ Smith is really the only guy that's had truly significant playing time that is in the safety room right now. Now, with that being said, I like a lot of the athletes in the safety room, but it is just a big glaring question mark on a defense that is surprisingly deep for what we're used to. If the safety room can figure it out, that's going to be the difference between this defense being good with some frustrating big plays given up and truly a great defense.
All right, so prediction time. I ask everybody who comes on to these previews. Prediction record-wise, what we got regular season, Austin? What do you get? What do you have?
For the regular season, I have K-State, and I haven't changed this yet from the last time I was asked. Ask me next week, it'll probably change. I have K-State going 10-2 and ducking the one game that they probably shouldn't lose. So, and by the way, the 2 losses, Baylor's won. I don't think we're beating Baylor in Waco. And then the other one I keep flipping between is either Oklahoma or Texas. So, of course, both of the future members of the SEC are the 2 games that I flip and flop on. Oklahoma because it is in Norman, and Texas because if they put it all together from a coaching staff perspective, they
be scary.
It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare.
Connor.
I'm sticking with 9-3, but I'm a lot less convinced than I was when we made our preview episode. I'm leaning towards maybe upping that to 10-2 because my original prediction had us losing at West Virginia, and I am not really convinced by them at all. It's just Morgantown that frightens me a little because K-State has not performed well there recently. But I'm going to stick with 9-3 with losses to OU, to Baylor. I'm going to probably switch that West Virginia loss that I predicted in the past. So I think we drop one of Oklahoma State and Texas. I think that we would lose one of those games maybe if we go 9-3. But I'm getting close to thinking 10-2, just with how the Big 12 is shaking out right now. But that might be me being overly optimistic.
Well, guys, I already have my ticket for Oklahoma or Kansas State in the win on the over. I already have it. It was 6.5 when I got it. I was very, very excited to do that. Obviously Adrian Martinez concerns, we'll see what happens with that. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Where can we find your podcast, Aggieville Alleycats, and where can we find you guys on Twitter? Austin, you can go first.
You can find the Aggieville Alleycats podcast where come rain, shine, or anything in between. We're here to deliver to you the Kansas State sporting news that you so love. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Overcast, just about anywhere that you can find your podcast. And if you're looking for us on YouTube, we go by the exact same name in Aggieville Alleycats. We haven't uploaded in a while, but look out for the potential of not only episodes, but bonus content up there as well.
Connor?
Yeah, what he said. Plus, find me on Twitter at Connor Baltazar, capital C, capital B. Keep guessing on my last name. You'll eventually figure it out. And that's all for me.
All right. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate your time. And Kansas State, maybe the most exciting team in the conference this league. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you.